The night sky over the Taebaek Mountains split open with fire. Captain Taiho was driving home from the airbase when he saw it. A streak of burning light cut across the darkness like a wounded star falling to earth. The ground shook. Trees bent. Birds scattered into the black sky, screaming. Taiho stopped his car and watched the fire disappear behind the mountain peaks. His radio crackled to life immediately. Emergency channels exploded with chatter. Something had crashed. Something big. Within 2 hours, Taiho stood at the edge of a massive crater carved into the mountainside. Military helicopters circled overhead. Soldiers set up a perimeter in the snow. But none of them could stop staring at what lay in the center of the destruction. It was a ship. Not a plane. Not a satellite. A ship unlike anything humans had ever built. The vessel was enormous, easily 300 meters long. Its hull was made of some dark metal that seemed to drink in the light from the emergency floodlights. Strange patterns covered its surface, almost like veins. Some parts of the ship still glowed with a faint blue light, pulsing slowly like a dying heartbeat. Taiho felt his breath catch in his chest. He had spent 20 years in the Air Force. He had seen experimental aircraft and classified technology. This was different. This was not from Earth. The rescue teams approached carefully. They found an opening in the hull where the crash had torn through the metal. Inside, they discovered the crew. They were not human. The beings were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They wore silver suits that seemed to move like liquid. 3 of them were dead. 2 more were badly injured. One stood among the wreckage, seemingly unhurt, watching the humans with an expression that might have been curiosity or contempt. Taiho was the first to approach the standing alien. His hand rested on his sidearm, but he did not draw it. The creature was at least 2 meters tall. It looked down at him with those black eyes. "We mean no harm," Taiho said slowly. He felt foolish. Could this thing even understand Korean? English? Any human language? The alien tilted its head. Then it spoke. The words came out in perfect Korean, though the voice sounded like wind passing through hollow pipes. "We know," it said. "Your weapons could not harm us even if you tried." More military personnel arrived over the following hours. Government officials, scientists. The injured aliens were taken to a medical facility under heavy guard. The one called Thane, who seemed to be their leader, refused any treatment. He simply waited. Dr. Yuna Wang arrived the next morning. She was a senior researcher from the Korea Institute of Science and Technology, one of the brightest minds in the country. When she saw the ship, she nearly fell to her knees. Her whole life, she had wondered if humanity was alone in the universe. Now she had her answer. Crashed into a Korean mountainside. She spent 3 days studying the exterior of the vessel while negotiations continued with Thane. The alien was cooperative but dismissive. He answered questions with the patience of an adult, explaining simple things to a child. Yes, his species was called the Valan. Yes, there were many other species in the galaxy. Yes, they had faster than light travel. No, humans were not ready to join the galactic community. Perhaps in a few thousand years. On the 4th day, a Velan rescue shuttle arrived. It descended from the clouds without a sound, hovering above the crash site like a silver ghost. Thane and his surviving crew member prepared to leave. Yuna approached Thane before he boarded the shuttle. "What about the ship?" she asked. "Will you take it with you?" Thane made a sound that might have been laughter. "That wreck? No, its core is dead. Without a living symbiotic crystal, the ship is nothing but scrap metal. Your people may keep it. Burn it, bury it. It does not matter. But the technology inside," Yuna pressed. "The engines, the weapons. Surely there is value in studying it." Thane's dark eyes studied her for a long moment. You could study it for 1,000 years and learn nothing useful. The core was the heart of the ship. It required a living bond with our species to function, a bond your primitive nervous systems could never replicate. He turned away. Keep your new toy, little scientist. Perhaps your grandchildren can use it as a museum. The shuttle lifted off and vanished into the sky. Just like that, humanity's first contact with alien life was over. But Yuna did not feel defeated. She felt something else burning in her chest. Determination, anger, a stubborn fire that refused to die. She turned back to the crashed ship. Sergeant Minho Park, the lead engineer on the ground team, stood beside her. He was a practical man with rough hands and a quiet voice. They really just left it here, Minho said. Like garbage. Yes, Yuna replied. They did. What do we do now? Yuna stared at the vessel. The faint blue glow still pulsed inside, weak but present. The aliens said the core was dead. But dead things did not glow. Dead hearts did not beat. We study it, she said. Every wire, every panel, every molecule. We learn what they think we cannot learn. And then we prove them wrong. Minho looked at her with surprise. You think we can actually repair this thing? Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been told something was impossible. They called us primitive, she said. They treated us like insects. But insects are survivors, Sergeant. We adapt. We build. We refuse to die. She placed her hand on the cold alien metal. This ship is not garbage. It is a gift. And humanity is going to show the galaxy exactly what we do with gifts. The wind howled across the mountain. Snow began to fall. And deep within the broken ship, the dying light pulsed just a little bit stronger. 3 years passed beneath the mountains. The Korean government built a secret facility around the crashed alien ship. They dug deep into the rock and constructed a massive underground complex. They called it Project Sunrise. 200 of the best scientists and engineers in the world worked there in complete secrecy. Yuna Wang led them all. The first year was frustrating. The alien technology was so advanced that it seemed like magic. The metal of the hull could repair itself when damaged. The power systems ran on principles that broke every law of physics humans understood. Some of the scientists wanted to give up. They said Thane was right. Humans were simply too primitive. Yuna refused to accept this. We did not understand electricity 200 years ago, she told her team during one difficult meeting. We did not understand atoms 100 years ago. Every generation of humans has faced impossible problems. Every generation has solved them. This is no different. She was wrong about one thing. This was very different. But she was right about another thing. Humans could solve it. The breakthrough came in the second year. A young neuroscientist named Hana Lim made a discovery that changed everything. Hana was small and quiet. She wore thick glasses and spoke so softly that people often had to lean in to hear her. But her mind was sharp like a knife. She had been studying the crystal at the center of the ship, the core that the aliens said was dead. It is not dead, Hana announced one morning. It is sleeping. The other scientists gathered around her workstation. On her screen was a pattern of electrical signals coming from the core. They pulsed slowly, almost invisible, but they were there. The core is biological, Hana explained. It is not a machine. It is alive. Or at least, it was alive. The Velen bonded with it using their nervous systems. When they abandoned it, the core went into a dormant state, like hibernation. Can we wake it up? Yuna asked. Hana pushed her glasses up her nose. Maybe. The core responds to bioelectric signals, specific frequencies from living brains, but human neural patterns are different from Velen patterns. We would need to find a way to translate. This began the next phase of the project. Hannah designed a special device that could connect the human brain to the alien core. It was dangerous work. The first tests used rats, then monkeys. The results were mixed. Some animals seemed to connect briefly before the link failed. Others suffered seizures. They needed a human volunteer. Lieutenant Sunwoo Kang stepped forward. Sunwoo was a fighter pilot, one of the best in the Korean Air Force. He was young, only 28 years old, with a calm face and steady hands. When asked why he volunteered for such a dangerous experiment, he simply shrugged. "Someone has to be first," he said. "Might as well be me." The first 17 attempts failed. Each time, Sunwoo sat in a special chair with wires connected to his head. Each time, Hana tried to establish a link between his mind and the alien core. Each time, the connection collapsed after a few seconds, but Sunwoo never complained. He never asked to stop. He simply took notes on what he felt during each attempt and suggested adjustments for the next try. It is like trying to speak a language. "I do not know," he told Hana after the 5th failure. "I can feel the core reaching out to me. I can almost understand it. But then everything becomes noise and the link breaks." Hana worked through the night, adjusting her device. She studied the recordings of each failed attempt. She mapped the exact moment when the connection collapsed. And slowly, she began to understand. "The problem is not the translation," she told Yuna. "The problem is control." The Velen used passive connection. They surrendered themselves to the core and let it guide them. But human brains do not work that way. We are too active, too willful. We fight for control instead of sharing it. So we need to change the approach, Yuna said. Exactly. Instead of trying to make Sunwoo more passive, we need to let him be human. We need to rebuild the interface so that human willpower becomes a strength, not a weakness. It took another 3 months to redesign the system. Hannah worked until she collapsed from exhaustion. Minho Park, the engineer, helped her rebuild the hardware. Sunwoo trained his mind, learning to focus his thoughts like a weapon. Attempt number 18 happened on a cold morning in December. Sunwoo sat in the chair. Wires connected his skull to the interface. Deep within the ship, the dormant core waited. Hana activated the system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Sunwoo gasped. His body went rigid. His eyes widened, and deep within the ship, the lights came on. Not just a faint glow. Every system activated at once. Screens lit up with alien symbols. Engines hummed with power. The entire vessel seemed to wake from a long sleep, stretching like a giant after centuries of rest. Connection stable, Hana whispered, staring at her screens. Neural link holding. Core activity at 100%. Sunwoo laughed. Tears ran down his face, but he was laughing. I can feel it, he said. I can feel the whole ship. It is alive. And it is listening to me. Not controlling me. Listening. Yuna approached him slowly. Can you make it do something? Sunwoo closed his eyes, concentrated. Outside, in the main hangar of the underground facility, the ship rose from the ground. Not much, just a meter. But it hovered there, silent and steady, held aloft by nothing but the will of a human pilot. The scientists cheered. Some of them cried. After years of failure, they had done the impossible. Yuna stood in silence, watching the floating ship. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded in her chest. The aliens had called them primitive. The aliens had said human nervous systems could never bond with the core. The aliens were wrong, but Yuna knew this was only the beginning. They had woken the ship. Now they needed to understand it. Control it. Improve it. She thought of Thane's dismissive words. His contempt. His certainty that humans would never amount to anything. We are just getting started, she whispered to herself. And when we are finished, the whole galaxy will know what humans can do. The ship hovered in the hangar, waiting for its next command. And in the mind of Sun Wukong, a new bond was forming. Not the passive slavery the villain used. Something stronger. Something human. A partnership. The ship had a new name now. They called it Taizhou, after the king who founded the first Korean dynasty. It seemed fitting. This vessel would found something new as well. A new chapter in human history. Captain Taiho Beak stood in the command center and looked around at his crew. 20 men and women from 6 different countries. The best pilots, engineers, and soldiers Earth had to offer. They had trained for 8 months for this moment. Systems check. Taiho ordered. Navigation. Ready, reported the navigator. Weapons. Standing by, said the tactical. Officer. Life support optimal. Confirmed the environmental. Specialist. Taiho nodded and looked at Sunwoo, who sat in a special chair at the center of the bridge. Wires connected his head to the ship's core. His eyes were closed, but his face was calm. Sunwoo? How does she feel? Sunwoo smiled without opening his eyes. She feels ready, Captain. She wants to fly. Then let's not keep her waiting. The underground hangar doors opened above them, revealing the night sky of Korea. Stars glittered in the darkness. Taizhou rose slowly through the opening, controlled by the gentle thoughts of Sun Wukong. They cleared the mountain and kept climbing. The air grew thin. The sky darkened from blue to black. Below them, the lights of cities sparkled like fallen stars. Altitude 50 kilometers, the navigator reported. Entering low orbit. Taiho felt his stomach float as gravity released its grip. Through the bridge windows, he could see the curve of the Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, the thin line of atmosphere that protected all of humanity. Beautiful, whispered someone behind him. Taiho agreed, but he did not say it. He was too focused on the mission. This was not just a flight. This was a test. They needed to know what Taizhou could really do. Sunwoo began acceleration tests. The ship responded instantly. Unlike human vehicles, there was no delay, no mechanical hesitation. Sunwoo thought, and Taizhou moved. They shot forward with such speed that the stars blurred into lines. Then Sunwoo twisted, and they spun in a perfect arc that would have torn any Earth aircraft apart. Acceleration at 12G, the engineer reported with amazement in his voice. Inertial dampeners at 100%. No stress on the hull. They spent 3 hours testing the ship's capabilities, speed, maneuverability, defense systems. Each test brought new surprises. The ship was not just functional. It was magnificent, but the real shock came when they tried the weapons. Captain, the tactical officer said, the weapon systems are unlocking. Taiho frowned. We did not request weapons access. No, sir. The ship is doing it automatically. I think it senses something. Before anyone could respond, Taizhou's sensors detected 3 objects approaching at incredible speed. They came from beyond the moon, decelerating as they entered the inner solar system. Unknown vessels, the navigator announced. Configuration matches Velen design. Taiho's jaw tightened. The aliens had returned. He did not know if they came in peace or war, but he was not going to take chances. Sunwoo, defensive posture. All stations, battle ready. The 3 Velen ships stopped at a distance of 1,000 kilometers. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a message came through on all frequencies. Human vessel, this is Commander Thane of the Velen Patrol. You are ordered to power down and prepare for inspection. Taiho recognized the name. This was the same alien who had abandoned the ship 4 years ago. The same one who had called humans primitive. Open a channel, Taiho ordered. His face appeared on the main screen, facing the alien commander. Thane's dark eyes widened when he saw the human captain standing on the bridge of what had once been a Velan wreck. Impossible, Thane said. The core was dead. Your species could not possibly have repaired it. And yet here we are, Taiho replied calmly. Your inspection request is denied. This vessel belongs to Earth now. You have stolen Velen technology. You have violated galactic law. Surrender the ship immediately, or we will take it by force. Taiho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Your people threw this ship away like garbage. We picked it up. We fixed it. Now it belongs to us. If you want it back, you are welcome to try taking it. Thane made a gesture that might have been disgust or anger. The 3 Velen ships moved forward, weapons charging. Captain, the tactical officer said urgently, their weapons are targeting us. Sunwoo? Sunwoo's eyes opened. They glowed faintly with the same blue light as the ship's core. I see them, Captain. Taijo sees them too. She does not like being threatened. What happened next lasted only 30 seconds, but it changed the relationship between humans and aliens forever. The Velen ships fired. Energy beams streaked toward Taijo, but the ship was already moving, dancing between the attacks with impossible grace. Sunwoo did not need to consciously calculate angles or speeds. He simply felt the danger and moved away from it. Then Taijo fired back. The weapon systems that had been locked for 4 years now blazed with power. Beams of concentrated light struck 2 of the Velen ships, disabling their engines. The 3rd ship tried to flee, but Taijo was faster. Another shot, another disabled vessel. The battle was over before it truly began. Taiho opened another channel. Commander Thane, your ships are disabled but not destroyed. We have no wish to kill your crews. Stand down, and we will allow you to call for rescue. Silence. Then Thane's voice, shaking with something that might have been fear. How? Your reaction times were 3 times faster than any Velen pilot. The ship responded to threats before they fully developed. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible for humans, Taiho replied. We just need time and determination. You gave us both when you left that ship on our planet. Now we are keeping it. Go back to your coalition and tell them what you saw here today. Tell them Earth is no longer a primitive world to be ignored. Tell them we are ready to take our place in the galaxy. The communication ended. The Velen ships drifted in space, waiting for rescue that would come hours later. On the bridge of Taijo, the crew erupted in celebration. They had done it. They had faced aliens in combat and won. But Taiho did not celebrate. He stood quietly at his command station, looking out at the stars. He knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had noticed Earth now. Some would be curious. Some would be afraid. And some would see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. War was coming. He could feel it in his bones. But looking at his crew, looking at the magnificent ship that human hands and minds had brought back to life, Taiho felt something else too. Hope. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together. And they would make the galaxy remember the day they underestimated the people of Earth. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The primitive species from the small blue planet had done the impossible. They had repaired a dead Velen ship. They had defeated 3 patrol vessels in combat. They had humiliated one of the oldest civilizations in the Galactic Coalition. Most species reacted with surprise, some with admiration. But one species saw something different. They saw opportunity. The Keth Dominion was not part of the coalition. They operated on the edges of civilized space, taking what they wanted from weaker species. They were scavengers, slavers, conquerors. For centuries, they had avoided Earth because humans had nothing worth taking. Now humans had starships. Now humans had technology. Now humans were worth conquering. 2 years after the incident with the Velen patrol, the Keth came to Sol System with 40 warships. They expected easy victory. They expected primitive creatures who had gotten lucky once. They were wrong. Commander Yoonji-oh stood on the bridge of the carrier Sejong and watched the enemy fleet approach on her tactical display. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes like steel. She had spent 30 years in the Korean Navy before becoming one of the first commanders of Earth's new space fleet. 43 contacts, her tactical officer reported. Keth configuration: heavy cruisers, destroyers, and troop transports. They brought transports, Yoonji noted. They plan to land troops. Occupy our planet. Yes, Commander. Yoonji smiled coldly. They will not get the chance. Earth's fleet was smaller. Only 5 ships against 43. But those 5 ships were special. Each one carried a human pilot bonded to an alien core. Each one responded to human will and emotion with perfect precision. Each one had been modified and improved by 2 years of human engineering. Captain Do-hyun-ru commanded the destroyer Gwanggeo. Captain Taeho-beek led the fleet from Taizhou. 2 more vessels, Gyeongbok and Chungmu, completed the formation. All ships report ready, Taeho announced over the fleet channel. Remember your training. We do not fight like the aliens. We fight like humans. Be unpredictable. Be creative. And never, ever give up. The Keth fleet did not bother with negotiation. They simply attacked. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light. The Keth ships moved in perfect formation, following calculated attack patterns that had worked against dozens of species. They expected the humans to scatter or surrender. Instead, the human ships charged directly into the enemy formation. All weapons free, Yoonji ordered. Launch fighters. The Sejong was a carrier, smaller than a Keth cruiser, but carrying 40 human-made fighters. These tiny ships were piloted by volunteers who had trained on flight simulators adapted from the alien technology. They swarmed out of the carrier's launch bays and dove into the enemy fleet like angry insects. The Keth formation broke. They had never faced an enemy that attacked so aggressively with such small craft. Their targeting systems struggled to track the fast-moving fighters. Their coordinated patterns fell apart as individual captains made individual decisions. Taeho saw the confusion and pressed the advantage. Sunwoo, target their command ship. Full power. Sunwoo Kang, still bonded to Taizhou after all these years, closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. The ship's weapons charged beyond their normal limits. Blue fire gathered at the bow of the vessel, growing brighter and brighter. The Keth commander saw death coming. He tried to raise shields, but it was too late. Taizhou fired. The blast punched through the enemy flagship like a fist through paper. The massive ship broke apart in a silent explosion. For a moment, the battle paused. Both sides watched the debris scatter into the void. Then the Keth began to retreat. Without their commander, without their carefully planned strategy, they fell back toward the outer system. But humans were not finished. Do not let them escape, Do-hyun said from Gwanggeo. They came to enslave our people. They need to learn the price of threatening Earth. The human fleet pursued. Over the next 6 hours, they hunted the Keth through the space around Saturn and its moons. The battle became a desperate chase, with human ships picking off enemy vessels one by one. The turning point came near Titan. 7 Keth ships had grouped together near Saturn's largest moon. They planned to make a final stand, using the moon's atmosphere to mask their movements. It was a clever tactic. It should have worked. Sunwoo Kang pushed Taizhou into the moon's thick orange clouds. The ship's sensors struggled with the interference. But Sunwoo did not rely on sensors alone. He felt the enemy ships. The core had evolved during the years of bonding with human minds. It could sense things now that its Velen designers never imagined. There, Sunwoo said. 3 ships, bearing 274. Taizhou burst from the clouds and fired. 3 explosions lit the orange sky, The remaining Keth ships tried to scatter. Guangetto caught 2 of them. Sejong's fighters destroyed another. The last one surrendered. When the battle ended, 12 Keth ships had been captured. 23 had been destroyed. 8 had managed to escape back to Keth space. Earth's fleet had lost no ships. 7 fighters were destroyed, but most pilots were recovered alive. The victory was complete. Admiral Taiho stood in the hangar bay of Taizhou as the prisoners were brought aboard. The Keth were ugly creatures by human standards. Thick gray skin, 4 arms, mouths full of sharp teeth. But they did not look frightening now. They looked defeated. "What happens to us?" one of them asked in broken galactic common. "You will be returned to your people," Taiho said, "with a message. Tell your leaders that Earth is not weak. Tell them we do not want war. But if war comes to us, we will fight. And we will win." The Keth prisoner stared at him with confusion. "You do not kill prisoners? You do not take slaves?" "No, that is not our way." "Then you are fools." Taiho leaned closer. "Maybe, or maybe we understand something your kind has forgotten. Mercy is not weakness. It is choice. Today we choose mercy. But if your dominion returns to our space with hostile intent, we will choose differently. Remember that." The prisoners were loaded onto a shuttle and sent back to the surviving Keth ships. Within hours, they had jumped out of the solar system, carrying news of their defeat back to Keth space. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Humanity had fought its first interstellar war and won. The species that other civilizations called primitive had broken a fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds. But those who had fought the battle did not celebrate. They knew this was only the beginning. The Keth would return eventually. Other species would test Earth's strength. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and humanity had just announced its presence. Commander Yunji-Oh stood alone on the bridge of Sejong, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were discussing what to do about the aggressive new species from the Sol system. "Let them come," she whispered. "We will be ready." And deep in the core of every human-bonded ship, the alien crystals pulsed with new strength. They had found something in human minds that the Velen never gave them. Not just commands, not just control, purpose, determination, the will to fight against any odds. The ships were not just awake anymore. They were evolving, and they were hungry for whatever came next. 10 years had passed since a broken ship fell from the sky. Admiral Taiho Beak stood at the window of his flagship, the newly built dreadnought Dokdo, and looked at the fleet gathered around him. 30 vessels of various sizes. Human designs built on alien principles. Each one bonded to a pilot who shared their thoughts with a living crystal core. They called it the Phoenix Armada. Born from the ashes of abandoned trash, risen to become the most feared fleet in the galaxy. Today, they were not going to war. Today, they were going to a meeting. The Galactic Coalition had finally invited humanity to send representatives to their governing station. It had taken a decade and 3 wars for this invitation to arrive. The Keth had returned twice more, and twice more they had been defeated. Other species had tested Earth's defenses. All had failed. Now the galaxy wanted to talk. The Coalition station was enormous. It orbited a dying red star, a neutral location where thousands of species came to trade and negotiate. Taiho had seen images of it, but nothing prepared him for seeing it with his own eyes. The station was larger than some moons, covered with lights and docking ports and structures that defied human understanding of architecture. Impressive, is it not? Taiho turned. A familiar face stood behind him. Thane, the Velen commander who had abandoned the original ship on Earth so many years ago. He looked older now, smaller somehow. He wore simple clothes instead of a military uniform. "You came," Taiho said. You invited me. I had nowhere else to go. My people do not welcome me after my failures against your kind. You did not fail against us. You underestimated us. There is a difference. Thane made a sound that might have been a bitter laugh. Is there? The result is the same. I spent my whole life believing certain truths. That the core required passive symbiosis. That emotional species could never bond with it properly. That humans were too primitive to understand advanced technology. He paused. I was wrong about everything. They stood together in silence, watching the station grow larger as the fleet approached. Why did you ask for sanctuary on Earth? Taiho asked. After everything? Thane was quiet for a long moment. Because I needed to understand. I needed to see how humans had done what we thought was impossible. And in the years I have lived among your people, I have learned the answer. What is it? Emotion. We Velans suppressed our emotions millions of years ago. We believed they were weakness, obstacles to logic and progress. So we engineered them out of our species. Our cores responded to this. They became cold, limited. They worked, but they never reached their true potential. Thane turned to face Taiho directly. Your species never made that mistake. You feel everything. Joy, anger, love, fear, hope. And when your pilots bond with the cores, they pour all of that emotion into the connection. The cores respond. They grow. They evolve. You are saying our greatest weakness became our greatest strength. I am saying that what we called weakness was never weakness at all. We simply did not understand. The fleet docked at the Coalition station. Human soldiers in armor marched through corridors filled with alien species. Some watchers looked curious. Others looked afraid. All of them gave the humans plenty of space. The meeting chamber was vast. Representatives from hundreds of species filled tiered seats around the central platform. Some were almost human in appearance. Others looked like nothing Taiho had ever imagined. Giant insects, living clouds, beings made of pure light. Admiral Taiho Beak walked to the center of the chamber. He wore his formal uniform, decorated with medals from battles that had already become legends. Behind him stood his senior officers, Commander Yunji Oh, Captain Do-Hyun Ru, the pilot Sun Woo Kang, and Dr. Yuna Wang, now elderly but still sharp, who had started everything in a frozen mountain crater. The Coalition chairman, a being that looked like a floating crystal, spoke first. Humanity has requested formal recognition as a member of the Galactic Coalition. This request is highly unusual. Species typically wait thousands of years before seeking membership. Humanity does not do things typically, Taiho replied. There was murmuring among the assembled representatives. The chairman continued. Your species has been part of the galactic community for only 10 years. In that time, you have defeated the Keth Dominion 3 times. You have built a fleet that rivals ancient civilizations. You have taken technology that was abandoned as useless and made it more powerful than ever before. Some see this as threatening. We understand that fear, Taiho said. We lived with fear for most of our history. Fear of other nations. Fear of nature. Fear of our own weapons. But we learned that fear can be overcome. Not through domination. Not through hiding. Through growth. Through understanding. Through refusing to accept limits that others place on us. He looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes of every shape and color. You left a broken ship on our world and called us primitive. We repaired it. You attacked us and called us weak. We won. Every time the galaxy underestimated us, we proved it wrong. And we will keep proving it wrong, forever, because that is what humans do. We refuse to accept impossible. The chamber was silent. Then Dr. Yuna Wang stepped forward. Her voice was thin with age, but it carried clearly through the hall. I was there when the ship crashed. I heard your commander Thane tell us to burn it, to forget about it. He said our grandchildren might use it as a museum. She smiled. Instead, my generation used it to touch the stars. And my grandchildren now serve on the ships we built. The ships that protect our world. The ships that will help protect this coalition, if you let us join. More silence. Then one representative stood. A Keth, surprisingly. The same species that had tried to conquer Earth. I vote to accept humanity, the Keth said. They defeated us fairly. They showed mercy when they could have destroyed us. Whatever else they may be, they have earned their place here. Other representatives began to vote. Species that had watched from the sidelines. Species that had doubted humanity's legitimacy. One by one, they agreed. The final vote was overwhelming. Humanity was officially a member of the Galactic Coalition. That night, there were celebrations on Earth and across the fleet. But Admiral Taiho Beak did not attend them. He returned to the original Taijo, now retired from active service and preserved as a monument in orbit above Korea. He walked through the empty corridors, remembering. Here was where they had made first contact. Here was where Sunwoo had bonded with the core for the first time. Here was where they had launched into space and fought their first battle. In the heart of the ship, the core still glowed. Faintly now, without a bonded pilot. But still alive, Taiho placed his hand on the warm crystal surface. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving us a chance. For believing in us when no one else did. The core pulsed gently under his palm. Almost like a heartbeat. Far below, on Earth, an old woman walked through fresh snow to a mountainside memorial. The place where everything had started. Where a ship had crashed and a species had changed forever. Dr. Yuna Wang stood in the cold and looked up at the stars. So many of them. So many worlds. So many possibilities. They had called humanity useless. Primitive. Unworthy of notice. Now human ships patrolled the galaxy. Human voices spoke in the halls of power. Human determination had overcome every obstacle placed before it. Yuna smiled at the night sky. We did it, she whispered to the stars. We took your garbage and built an empire. And we are just getting started. Somewhere above, the Phoenix Armada sailed on, carrying human hope and human will into the infinite darkness between stars. The galaxy would never underestimate them again.